Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Resident Evil 0. In the last part, we reached the facility basement and unleashed Eliminators across most of the complex. And now we're gonna go deeper into this area once we get rid of this group of 3 or 4. Eliminators, like I said last time, really do suck. They're fast, they can jump at you just to surprise you, and they can pile on the damage pretty quickly. The biggest thing is, due to their speed, it's easy to also miss shots on them if they're jumping at you. The shotgun in certain close quarters like that can help with that, but I really don't like fighting them. Ideally, I ignore most of them, and that's also why I explored as much of the facility as I did before coming down here, because now I can ignore a lot of them. No amount of cunning can match the speed of my supple limbs. Time for a bit of an interesting puzzle. My sharp wits allow me to bring down even the greatest horned beast. Effectively, every statue here describes an animal. I'm the king of all I survey. No creature can escape my grasp. Each one of them has a lamp in front of them that is not lit. I creep up on my victims in legless silence, and conquer even the mightiest of kings with my poison. You gotta figure out which one's the weakest to strongest, effectively. I stand tall on the earth with horns proudly displayed. Some of the logic here's a bit tough to follow, though, probably on the first playthrough. I dance freely through the air, capturing a legless prey. Effectively, we are using Billy's lighter to light the lamps in front of each of these statues in the order of weakest to strongest, following a apex predator pecking order kind of deal. So you start with the deer, then next after that's the wolf. After them's the horse, because the horse can outrun the wolf, but it can't outrun the tiger. The tiger calls itself the king, but the snake can poison the kings, and then the eagle can eat the snake pretty quickly. And as for the direct hint to all this, it is here on this door. 6 souls imprisoned within the chains of death. Rekindle the flames of life from the spirits of the weak. Wording on this one is a little vague, but enough time and you'll figure it out, probably. The big thing to look for is keywords in every single one of their sentences, like the snake says it can poison a king, hence why it goes after the tiger. But since it's legless, the eagle can capture legless prey, kind of deal. I'd say even on our first playthrough, the hints here that are here are good enough to help you figure out at least parts of the sequence, and from there you can probably just trial and error the rest of it down probably pretty quickly. I'd say the ending of the sequence is probably more obvious than the start of the sequence overall, too. And that unlocks that door, so now we can go over here and grab a couple things in this way. There are 2 doors in this hallway. And it doesn't really matter which order you enter them in, so I'm going to go into this one first. They both have some items for us at the end of the day, though. But if you only want to go into necessary rooms, go into this one. Because while there is some bottles to make some molotovs in here, the more important thing is on the far end in this fireplace. It's a fireplace. It appears to be purely decorative. But within it lies one of our next major key hunt items, the Unity tablet. Need to find 3 of those in order to get onto the next section of the game. In fact, you may have already found where you need to insert them, and I've been in the room we need to use that in. I just didn't go any further into it because I was like, I don't need to be here yet. Although that thing's existence was already hinted at by 2 particular notes. Next, we want to head down here, and you especially want to head down into this room and kill all the zombies if you're playing on easy mode. Because there are extra herbs here, and hey, those can go a long way. On normal and above, though, all that's here is a couple of zombies and the note. In fact, you probably could ignore killing the zombies and just go for the note. I'm doing this just out of habit at this point, honestly. Admittedly, the fun thing about having 2 characters at most times in the game, most zombies won't get a chance to get close enough to you to really do damage. Management Trainee's Diary. What is it that Director Marcus is researching all the time? And what's with his weird interest in leeches? Interest? It seems more like love at times. Rumor has it that there's something dangerous about those leeches. It is true that when Dennis just touched one, he got ill with a fever. Again today, there were those horrible moans beyond that door. Let sleeping dogs. No way I'll ever go near them. Even if the director tells me, I no want to end up like Dennis. That poor bastard, scratching and scratching, makes me itch just watching him. Maybe go, if can, but oh, Dennis gone. I go. Hungry. Help, Mom. They've tried a couple times to kind of recreate the energy of the original Itchy Tasty Note from Resi 1 and its remake. That's, I think, one of the only other times they've truly gotten it down quite as well. Although, if just touching the leeches can seemingly infect you, us being attacked by the leech zombies in the cutscenes even means we probably should be infected. In fact, Rebecca gets attacked by the Eliminator in that cutscene, and usually cutscene injuries are permanent and deadly. We never get infected by that, although I think there is some lore from, like, the equivalent to an Ultimania guide at some point that effectively states that Eliminators aren't good at transmitting the virus, they're just infected with it, and it makes them more aggressive and powerful kind of deals. So we got that Unity tablet, and I'm going to place it down there because I want to come over here and explore this direction first. And there's enough items over here that I'm going to need the extra inventory space. Beware, by the way, there are some spiders in this hallway in case you're trying to avoid getting poisoned. It's actually the main reason I took off my weapon, because I wanted to get to this door quickly without getting hit by them. Because as usual, you do run faster when you don't have something equipped in the classic series. In this little sewer room, I'm going to be re-equipping my weapon, though, because there's 2 plague crawlers over here, and I need to get past them for an item. Notably, once again, if you're playing the game on easy mode, there is an extra first aid spray for you in this room that could be worth going for. I could potentially recommend just bringing one character in here with an inventory space to try and get around the plague crawlers, but at this point, since I've already used enough shotgun shells, I might as well kill them just to sunken cost fallacy my way through my ammunition. I should note, there is also technically a type of ammo that can show up in some rooms at this point that you're not going to see unless you're playing at a certain rank, so to speak. Because, like a couple of the other Resident Evil starting from 2, there is a sort of unique mini-game that uses the game's level design you unlock after you beat the game. And if you get a certain rank on that, you get a machine gun, effectively, and there are clips for that located in certain rooms throughout the game. Like, I think there's one in the main hall. There's one in the room that had the shotgun shells I ignored earlier, that unlocked after Rebecca got thrown into the pit last time. And, I think there's a couple of others after that. So here we got another room we need to split up the characters in, but make sure you grab the ammo first, because it'll come in handy in the case you don't have shotguns ready. In fact, even outside the plot item, this screen right here has 2 very good items to get outside of these shotgun shells, and one of which requires the locker key we got in the room with the plague crawlers, because, well, if you check that locker, it's locked. But just to make sure I have the inventory space, let's give all the handgun ammo we got to Rebecca. And now finally unlock this. It's locked, you don't say. Within locker number 1 is a suitcase. But the suitcase, made of duralumin, is locked. It needs a 3-digit combo to unlock. But the funniest thing is, looking closely, you notice the number is 385 written in the corner. The combination for it is written on the case itself. If you try to look around the level design, it's not there. And I think there's something weird about that that's weirdly funny. Open the lock, and within lies the handgun parts. You can use these on either of the main character's handguns in order to greatly increase the gun's firing precision. I always give these to Rebecca's handgun, because she's inherently weaker in terms of the damage she does anyway, so it might as well. Something I'm not sure about, though, is how the handgun parts work numerically. I'm not sure if they increase the actual strength of the handgun, or if they make you more likely to get headshots, which is the main reason if it's the latter I give them to Rebecca usually, because Billy already has higher chances, so balancing them out makes sense like that to me. But I might be wrong on that. If I can find any information, I'll put that on screen. If you guys know and I don't find that information, hey, tell me. One more thing to grab in here, you can barely see it on the bottom right drawer of this set. This is the earliest in the game we can find ourselves any of the very scarce Magnum ammo. I think it's just a single bullet, but every bullet of that counts. You're going to want to ferry that with you throughout the rest of the game, because the Magnum, as usual, is very powerful, but ammo is very scarce. Yeah, a singular bullet. We're separating the 2 characters, and I'm sending Billy down here because he has the shotgun, though if you have more grenade rounds, depending on which difficulty you're playing on, I would recommend bringing Rebecca in with that instead. And hey, there's even some acid rounds around here to make up for that. we now need to swap back over to Rebecca and operate the switches near the broken window over here. There's a control panel here. Press a button. There's one on the left, there's one in the center, and there's one on the right. Each of them influences the gates in this little area that Billy's in different ways. Some raise, some lower. It just depends on which button you press. We need to operate them in such a way to get not only the grenade rounds over here, but also the actual key that is located in this room. I think there's technically a couple of different combinations of button presses you can use to get around to where we need to go in here. I think I largely do this just using the button on the center and the button on the right, I want to say. But hey, do what you need to do to get there. Anything will work eventually. Ultimately, it's more of a room that feels less like a puzzle and more of just an obstacle, if that makes sense. Because sometimes things like this can be either it's an actual brain teaser of which gates it raises and which orders you need to do it in. Other times it's just a, come on, get on with it kind of deal. Like, for example, even in Resident Evil 1, the painting room with the crows, that's a puzzle. The room you need to move that statue onto a very particular switch in the underground caverns on the way to the lab, that's an obstacle, if that makes sense. Just make sure, again, that you have a strong weapon ready, be it the handgun or the shotgun. You theoretically could just try to run away from what's going to happen here, but honestly, the spaces are so tight and the things that happen are so fast that actually might be a little hard to do. This room, I think, could be more entertaining if this game ever got a remake that had multiplayer or co-op in some form, because then having one player on each side of a puzzle, I think, is just more engaging than having to swap back and forth between two halves of the playable cast, if that makes sense. As it is, this actually kind of reminds me of some puzzles in Four Swords Adventures, Four Swords multiplayer on the Game Boy Advance / 3DS as it was, and especially Triforce Heroes. For better or worse in that case, because I like parts of those three Zelda games. Parts. Definitely have a lot of good memories of playing the 3DS release of Four Swords with my buddy Scott towards the end of high school. That was fun. That was fun. Alright, we've made it to the switch in question. Let's push the button!
Battle sequence initiated. Locking door.
It's our good old friends, the Hunters. Fast, high damage, and especially with their jumping strike, I think they can decapitate you if you're at low enough health. But they only take 2 or 3 shotgun shells to take down, let alone acid rounds. These are the enemy types you should really use those on top of one other thing down the line, if you brought Rebecca down here. So not too bad, but watch out for them all the same. Now that we fought these two, there's also going to be a couple in certain rooms throughout the training facility proper, if memory serves.
Battle sequence complete. Unlocking door.
The main reason we did all that was for a key in order to reach another area down the line. So now we can reunite our characters, pick up the items in question, and now we're actually completely done here in the basement, if memory serves. So now we need to head back to the main part of the training facility. In fact, since it's a little bit of a trek back, once we leave this room, I'm going to speed our way back to the main facility. Just to get through it faster. In particular, I'm going to speed up until we hit the area where the boiler steam got turned off. Because that also technically is a lot of inventory management, because I do pick up a lot of the herbs that are there along the way. The one thing I should note, if you dropped it in your inventory for a space earlier to come down here, grab the Unity tablet, like if you dropped it like I did earlier, because you're going to need that in order to finish the game, so you might as well grab it and then, not long after we return to the main facility, put it where it needs to go, even. Did waste a little bit of shotgun ammo there, though, because Billy started auto-aggroing onto the spiders, which sucks, but, oh well. That is a time where actually changing the AI's behavior like you can do could have come in handy. But there's really not much of a reason to do that on easy and normal mode. Hard mode, I'd say, is where that's best used, just to preserve ammo in the case you need to. But even then, like, I don't find much purpose in doing it myself. But at the same time, again, I've played this game a lot less than some other people, so my optimization on it's just not as good as other people. On top of that, I'm assuming that's something speedrunners get a lot out of, because every bullet saved is something you can use in a very specific place later on. There's probably some people that think the speed up I do in this LP is a little unnecessary, and they're probably technically right. It is largely for commentary flow reasons, at the end of the day. like I said earlier, because it speeds things up for you as well, but also for me because I think the inventory management I sped up, on top of the few backtrack speedups I did like that, I think saved enough time to reduce the part count in the LP by a part, or maybe even 2. So, hey, I'd say that's worth it to me, at least. With that said, I do quickly do another speed-up backtrack here really quick, in order to grab that herb and acid rounds I left behind, just to have them in the main hull. Again, sometimes my enjoyment on this game is largely hampered by the lack of item boxes, because I like to have all my items in a single place, and if I can't do that, I'm doing things like this. And that is largely on me, because of how I like to play these games, and how I like to have my inventory centralized if I can. So this is a case of, if you're playing along, maybe don't do this, because this is just me trying to placate my brain spiders, so to speak. Once your inventory management, whatever it is for your playstyle at this point, is done, our next destination is to actually go take that Unity tablet to where it needs to go, because that way I can save on inventory space delivering the other keys of its variety down the line. We've been to the room we need to use it in, but I only went in there for some handgun bullets earlier. We need to head through the door that unlocked by doing the conference room puzzle in the room where we fought the millipede earlier that's now filled with plague crawlers. It could be worth killing the plague crawlers here, honestly, just to get them out of your way in case you do backtracks like this. So, mileage may vary on that. I'd say if I hadn't used my shotgun ammo on the Stinger earlier, I probably would have at least killed the one that's near the door here just to save some space there, but oh well. Thankfully, that room, to my knowledge, never gets Eliminators in it, because if they were in that room, that would probably be the worst room of them in the game, barring one other room in particular. So this room is actually a observatory, and below the telescope is a panel with 3 suspiciously shaped little marks in it, There's a message carved into the control panel, the 3 fundamental principles of the Umbrella Corporation, which if you remember from a certain note earlier, Unity was one of the 3, and thankfully, you don't need to actually place it in the correct spot. It auto gets placed into the correct space, thankfully. Mind you, that wouldn't be much of a puzzle to begin with, but hey, I'll take the slight streamlining. Slightly good thing as well, we're also next to our next destination already, because down in the facility basement, we got the blue key, and we've seen the blue door it goes to a couple times in the LP already. If you remember back in the room where we got the first half of the Statue of Good as well as the grenade launcher, there's a blue door there. So this is me killing a couple of birds with, I guess, a stone and a half or so. Also coming up here is an example of why you really should just send one person into that room at a time. Because the AI, again, will just lag behind you at enough of a rate, well, they'll probably get cheap shot. Also, you really might want to bring a couple of molotovs into this next area with you. For actually technically 2 reasons. Maybe even 3, depending on how aggressive you want to be. Again, I do want to highlight the strengths of Resident Evil Zero's level design, because there are quite a few, both in terms of the trip lengths for certain things from one place to another in the training facility, or the red and blue keys going to red or blue doors, I think is honestly really strong, because just exploring around on a first playthrough, when I got the blue key, I immediately went, oh, I know where this goes. Because I had been looking around enough that I remembered the blue door here. Like, as much as I'm not a fan of this game, I think it's something that gets really right that I think a lot of other survival horror games that try to be like Resident Evil usually don't. Especially on the PS1 and 2. Like, there's very few games in the series that get that wrong, even in the official side of things. It's really just like Gaiden, and I guess Code Veronica that get it kind of weak with that. And even then, Code Veronica, at least, like, I could see maybe reasons why, because they were going full 3D, so maybe figuring out some level design stuff was a little limiting, but also they were trying to experiment with the new tech as well, so even that game's faults have their origins that I can say are probably reasonable at points. Also, this Mimicry Marcus I always remember is here, which is the reason I bring the molotovs, because on my first playthrough, I remember this one killed me because I moved slightly to the right in this room at first, and then it did its lunge at me, and then I died. Ha. There's the explosion into leeches, by the way. That can damage you, although it's less likely to damage you after fire than it is after hitting with bullets. Our reason for coming into this room is that handle. So now we can use that on something to use the something in question. Thankfully, it is very close by. It's actually in this exact same hallway, even. But before we get into that room, there's another one. You might as well kill this one as well, just to avoid it trying to lash out or grab you. Although I think the Mimicry Marcuses will only grab you when they get into their super gross, like, lanky form like this, rather than when they're actually looking like Marcus. So watch out for that, I guess. But with that, I'm gonna need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 8, we're gonna finish exploring this particular wing of the training facility before seeing what we can get done next. See you guys then.